Hello and welcome to Michael and Ivanka's Grand Podcast with part 2 of our episode about money. I'm Michael Forrest.
And I am Ivanka Maich.
So let's continue. I have tried to invent this idea of a thank bank or a karma bank thing where it was like you kind of start to try and quantify good deeds and your contributions, your sort of social contribution. I still think maybe if you came at it the right way it might work, but I mean it's a long shot. It's certainly not as kind of cement as as tangible as money is as a scorekeeping system.
But look at our the news recently, and President Donald Trump's new tax regime that has given him an opportunity to tell his wealthy compatriots that they have all become a lot richer. It's like, so? Why? How much richer? I mean, having said that, I once got refused a pay rise. So I'd agreed a pay rise in 2 parts. Yes, we'll give you that pay rise, you're right, but we're going to give you $3,000 now and we'll give you $3,000 in 2 months. 2 months rolled up and they went, yeah, we've decided you earn enough. And I was like, you what? What do you mean I earn enough? On what merit? What? So needless to say, I resigned. And they... because I don't know by what measure, because I was asking for a pay rise because I'd heard men in my position were earning more, blah blah. But we're talking here the difference between, let's say, £33,000 and £36,000 a year, not the difference between 200 million and 300 million, both of which are, I mean, I don't know. I can't imagine how much difference having 300 million versus 200 million.
Well, the trouble is,
would have.
In real terms, that's sort of unimaginable difference, but in psychological terms, it's kind of lame. It's like,
that's
it's just
true.
2 and now I've got 3. I want 10. What about 100? It's just, it's messed up, isn't it, that they're on the same scale?
It's like, so far be it from me to say that these people earn enough. But I'd hazard that they do earn enough, and that the more that they're making isn't actually going to make them any happier. It's not going to make them any healthier. It's not going to make them live any longer. They're not going to be able to buy a great deal more stuff, but they are going to feel bigger.
And I want to object to the word earn as well. Cause,
you want to object to the word earn?
I hate it because I feel like this sort of money people, I sort of feel like as you get more into those echelons, it's like it feels less and less like they're really earning anything. It just feels like this sort of like, what are you actually doing for this? Like, I actually work for my money. Like every bit of money I earn, I can trace back to some effort. Whereas you're sort of like multiplying these kind of abstract ideas of money a lot of the time and just using money to make more money, and you're not earning that anymore. You're just like, I don't know, just moving things around and profiting because of the way the sort of system works.
So I'm going to defend them now, because I think that's why the billions is so important, is because not everybody has got not all of us can do that, can become, but get to the point where you've got enough money. Some people inherit, and there's this, you've already mentioned this in a previous chat we had about, sort of Zuckerberg being very open about the fact that if he didn't have a financial stable backing, that he wouldn't have been able to do Facebook. But I don't want to downplay. I agree that they're not necessarily can't point to the line of code, or they can't, but they have earned it in some way, and I think that's why they're so defensive of it. They've earned it by being clever, by connecting dots, by, and I do not put somebody like Donald Trump in that category, because as I understand it, and I'm happy to be corrected, he was given a few $100 million by his father that he's neither, he's managed to hold on to somehow, or lost a couple of times and got some more or something. Fuck knows. I don't really care. So there are some people who've worked and earned it. I don't know. I'm trying not to be rude. I've got this problem with being offensive to people, because I just think they're just, people lash out then. If you call them, if you just sort of use the term rich wankers in a blanket way, and just go, listen, you're just all rich, you should just, so what, 90% tax? It's not enough.
And it's not fair, really, is it? Like someone, and I'm obviously, it's hard not to have a chip on your shoulder about, I'm saying about myself, about like, oh, rich people. But it's not, you got to like, and when I don't like when I find myself in the room with someone who I'm conscious is wealthy, that it's almost like I start to get a bit of like Tourette's or something, and just start like flipping, just feeling like I'm saying the wrong thing because I just feel like their understanding of money is so, and you just sort of have this thing in the back of your mind, you could just fix this so easily, right? And it's just not nice, and it must be sort of like a bit horrible to be on the other side of that. And this is one of the sad things about this like fabulous wealth, is that it does sort of like detach you so much. It makes you kind of an alien to most people, because you can't have like a conversation. Like so many of our conversations sort of are in line with our kind of like level of wealth, that suddenly if someone starts talking about their skiing trip this weekend, which to me might be like a once every 10 years I might do something like that, or every 5 years, and this guy is like is someone that just kind of does it every other weekend because they just got a friend and they've got a chalet and this, and you're sort of like it's really hard to kind of like connect with someone like that, because it's like you just can't really get past the fact that you just feel a bit like, oh, well, I can't even do that. So but like this we have this idea that, oh, if you're that wealthy, then you can't ever have any problems, and of course that's not the case. It's like money isn't some sort of magical cure-all for everything. You still have to do weird stuff. You still have to carry marble up the stairs somehow, or you have to get the runway longer, all this kind of stuff on your island. But it just means you're like an eight. How do it just really limits the number of people you're able to communicate with, which to me is sort of like a turn-off of becoming fabulously wealthy, and as I've sort of seen it a bit more.
I like this new expression that's evolved through this conversation, being fabulously wealthy. I was just thinking what you were saying about being in the presence of people who are fabulously wealthy and somehow feeling like, like, I don't know, somehow you've got a voice in the back of your head, or you're trying not to say, can't you just...
Look, I'm having this huge problem.
Can't you just give me like a couple of grand?
You
fucking
could just
sort it out.
fart and I'd be fine. Like, for God's sake.
I don't know. It's very... Money's just a fucking pain in the
It's
arse.
very divisive, is this weird...
Very divisive.
The unpleasant thing is it's not really solving any problems, but it's really like dividing people up in a really kind of unconstructive way, but in also a very real way. It's like, well, I don't like having to pay for I've got, being a musician, a lot of my friends are, I've got friends of various like incomes, from like almost on the street to, doing well. And it's like, I sort of, like day to day, I don't mind kind of, in quotes, kind of lending someone a tenner, like every so often, that I know I'm not going to get back, to kind of help them out. But it's sort of tiring when you sort of feel like you are carrying someone, isn't it? Like, but that's not cool. But it's also like, but what do you do? Like, you can't just
not be friends with them.
Oh, well, no, so I want to be friends with someone, but like then they're kind of aware that I could probably
solve all their problems.
Solve their problems, and it's like, that's...
Yeah, it is a bit... Yeah, it's just a...
I guess that proves that if you do have a connection on something other than that like, if it is that you both can talk about the same music for hours on end, and like enjoy that kind of thing, that can kind of short circuit that, and you can have friends like that.
I like to think that I can talk to anybody, which is, I think, one of the reasons that I don't feel uncomfortable around very rich people. I have, some of my good friends are very, very rich. Equally, some people that I am friends with are very much the opposite. And I am in a fortunate position. I do, I have a thing where if I want to see, if I want to go out to dinner with some friends, and I've always been a bit like this, and I know they can't afford it, but I know they'd enjoy it. I got and I don't know if how they take it. But I'm like,
if you like pay for it,
I'll just go, come on, I'll pay. You wouldn't, but I couldn't afford to go. But so what? I can afford for both of us. Let's not worry about it. Let's go and have a nice dinner. Or like,
you kind of feel like there's a certain number of times you can do that before it's just like you sort of feel like, I still find it hard not to feel like someone's counting, like I'm counting, or the other person's counting the number of times that's happened, and that like reciprocity is a very sort of, and fairness is a very sort of like deeply baked in thing, isn't it? In our psychological makeup. But do you have any advice for someone that would like to be better at hanging out with people in a higher wealth bracket than themselves?
Advice for people.
AKA how to make rich friends with Ivanka.
I don't have loads of rich friends. I think it's more to do with the fact of how I was brought up, because I have no respect for authority, well, little or no respect for authority, and I think that helps. Still thanks to my father's upbringing. I think being of two cultures helps, because you don't actually belong in either. That's the interesting thing about being a bicultural, bilingual child. And so therefore you're sort of from a very early age, you don't actually fit anywhere. So therefore,
you've kind of always
feeling
got that feeling of being
you're always slightly uncomfortable. So therefore, feeling uncomfortable is not uncomfortable anymore, because it's just what's normal. And so,
interesting.
I think it's much more to do with that. Like, I just don't. I think I don't know necessarily what it feels like to be around, because I'm so unique. I don't mean it like that, but I think it is to do with that whole being a bit funny wherever you are, a bit weird,
right?
So therefore,
just
everywhere you like.
Interesting.
I've spoken to a few kids, grown-ups, kids, people like me who are half and half something, and I bet they'll all chuckle about the same sort of things. Both cultures annoy you in some way, because neither of them quite suit you, because when you're in one, the other one, you miss something from the other one. But I think as I've grown older, I've got better at laughing on both sides. Rather than, and I don't necessarily think one's better than the other, but I think that's why I am not uncomfortable around people, regardless of whether they're, if it's about money, religion, colour, class, whatever things, profession, is more to do with the fact that I'm just used to not fitting in.
Okay. No, that's good. No, that's think that's a very useful information to know, really, because I'm sort of like looking at the experiences through that lens and going, okay. So stop trying to think that comfort is a goal in these things, and just like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
Be who you are. Just be yourself.
Be yourself,
so is that
man.
your advice? Is that what you're saying? Just be yourself.
Well, yeah. What's wrong with you? Nothing. What's wrong with anybody? Nothing. Just don't be an arsehole. Whatever you do, just don't be an arsehole.
Try not to be an arsehole.
Just do your best.
I don't know if I can manage that.
Well, try.
Oh.
If somebody's being an arsehole to you, then...
There was this Tesco when I was living in Shoreditch, and there was a Tesco's down on Commercial Street, and I'd go there, and like one year I was like, there's this guy that sits outside that's always like asking for change. It's just to show that this goes both ways. And I thought, right, okay, I'm going to just like every day my change that I have, I'm going to give to this guy, whatever I've got. So I thought I'll start today, and so I sort of gave him like a handful. It was like there was some coppers and some 10p's in there, so it was very little. But I'd been with my friend who's sort of like borderline on the streets and seen him like buy a sandwich for like 15p or something in a thing. So it wasn't like completely insane, but I thought, well, it'll be sustained and this will work. And I sort of walked along, and this guy ran after me and went, "Oi!" and like gave it back to me and kind of went, "Fuck you." And I was like really flustered. I was like, "What?" And I didn't think to sort of say, "Yeah, but I want to, to explain my logic," because I was just so like, "What the hell?" And then like, I was just like, "Oh God, one of the reasons he's on the streets is because he's an arsehole." But for whatever whatever reasons I don't want to try and get, but like I encountered him every so often, this guy. Like one day I was like, I literally like giving me a hard time for some other reason. I was at a cash point, and like I ended up like giving him £2 and going, "Is that enough?" And he's like, I'm like, what the fuck? And then just like always just wanting to glare at him when I walked past him. So I don't know. Like,
so you don't, yeah.
Just don't be an arsehole.
Yeah, but that's just that's just equality, Michael. Everybody can be an arsehole, rich or poor.
That's what I mean.
It's a very, humans come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. They can all be arseholes. They can all be nice.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's nothing to do with. You can't apply a universal, character. You can't apply a character trait universally to a group of people, be it whatever, religion, money, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Arseholes come
Any
in
way
all
of
shapes.
categorising people is always just, silly. So sort of like financial prejudice is just as bad as any other kind of prejudice.
Yeah.
So this is something that we can try and remember, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, oh, rich people are arseholes. Is just as it's racist.
It is racist.
What do you think of this this idea of the self-made sort of entrepreneur, self-made person? And I'll kind of preempt you by kind of saying it's sort of important to me that I feel like I've got a lot, and I feel like it's all like I've got it all myself. Like I don't feel like I've ever really been given any of the things that I've got in life at this point. I sort of take some pride in the fact that I've never, but it's sort of lame as well to kind of feel like you have to start from scratch. Well, what do you?
I don't know. So I have this two things. One, this thing that my dad got into my head that I needed to be able to look after myself makes it very difficult for me to let other people look after me financially. I don't like it. I like to be earning my own money. Even though I have zero hesitation with sharing money that I earn, and even with Nick, going, oh no, you're the one that's got this sort of idea. You go for it. I'll cover the bills. La la la. No, I don't feel that. Zero hesitation. Other way round, I'm not. I just feel it makes me quite uncomfortable, and so I think I do understand. For me, it's not about pride in terms of, I don't know what word that you would think of that describes the feeling you're talking about, which is that, this having to earn it yourself. I don't really know what the underpinning of that is. In my world, for me personally, it's about independence for sure, or lack of dependence, which aren't necessarily the same things. But also when it came, there was a period in my life where I did have this, just a bit of debt, literally a few £1,000s of credit card debt that I just didn't clear. But I kept it as some sort of weird excuse. No, I can't move in with you because I've got this debt that I need to clear before I can. I used it as like here's my baggage. It's here. It's in the shape of a credit card debt. That means that I can't possibly commit to any life with anybody else because I need to sort this problem out. It's a bit weird. I mean, money does... money represents lots and lots of different things, and I think it gets entangled, independence, dependence, pride, all these things, they just get, I think this, I'd wager that other things were at play, but the money represented it.
It's weird how it's like, again, like money is this quantifiable thing, so you kind of like end up using that as the reference point that here's the proof of something.
Think about that woman that we watched talk at a Meaning conference, Kate Raworth, I don't know how to pronounce her surname, but the donut economics lady, and she talked about the fact that basically you can no longer be sort of impact neutral. You have to be impact positive in order for us to save the planet. I think that's a very brief summary of what she was saying. And so, a company simply aiming to be neutral isn't enough anymore. You've got to be trying to do something good. However, and one I was talking in a previous chat about the fact that when you're working the public sector or in politics or things, this sort of, because there's no profit to measure, you have to try and find measurable, countable things that help you explain if something is working or not. And money, unfortunately, is the easiest thing for us to reach for. Am I recovered from the death of my mother enough? or whatever it might be that makes you go, right, well, no, I've got 23 that says I haven't, or 79 says yes. It's like they're just numbers. But work is not the same as money.
No. Work is, and I think we talked about this a bit last week, but work, that kind of meaning, sense of giving, sense of purpose can come from work, which is different to money, which is why when it's not working, throwing more money at it is rarely, it's rarely a good idea to accept, oh, well, let's take more money, that'll fix that this isn't working for me. I don't think that's why that doesn't really work. Because you just
end up spending more money on the therapy you need to be going to out of work in order to stay sane. That's my experience.
Impromptu holidays.
It's like, oh my God, I've got to go and see 55 therapists and go on a massive holiday just to pay to stay sane enough to go to work and not cry all the way in and all the way home. Awful. I think we've all had some shitty jobs.
So what actually is money? I think one of the strongest forces in humanity, and like if you're an anthropic principle type person like me, the universe is trust between two people, and money is our sort of like quantified sort of stand-in for that in a larger and larger society where trust can't be necessarily used as freely. You kind of invest it in these tokens instead, and say, okay, well, we'll put it down in this kind of arbitrated intermediary form, and then we exchange and we do things for each other. We give things to each other, which maybe in a barter society would have been a lot looser. And I think if it still just was that, it would be a lot more healthy. But being strangely sort of counting machine animals that we are, it's become distorted. But the other thing is the thing that makes that worth is a shared belief that it is something, because it isn't actually something at all. It's only the idea that we both believe that there is value in this number that we've agreed is worth this much that makes it all work. And it's this kind of this global shared illusion we have that we believe, that means that that everything kind of runs, but it's basically that there's nothing real there at all. And then that gets distorted further when you sort of think about the stock exchange and how kind of perceived value starts to really kind of cause these positive feedback loops into what people say they're putting into something. That kind of blows out of all proportion because you've got the belief in a thing, and that becomes not anchored to, say, gold or anything anymore. And now this can just get completely out of control when people believe that this .com startup is worth X amount of $1 billion. But yeah, it's a sort of shared dream that we're all in. And imagine if it was possible to break that dream and, start a new one. Is there any reason we couldn't? If enough people kind of agglomerated towards a new idea, could we just sort of like leave them to it?
These are all big. These don't really invite discussion. They invite contemplation. You make,
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. You don't be sorry.
Why I left it to the end instead of starting with it.
Maybe we don't need to talk about them at all. We're just, and we leave you with Michael's. I think it is all made up, and that's why it's grotesque. It's a lot of it. It's like, what was it? Instagram was worth X. It was billions, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So fuck is it? How?
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
On what? What are you? What? It's like, and I know. I love the way you said .com startup, because that was the previous bubble, Michael.
Yeah, no, I used the word startup. It was like an oxymoron, wasn't it? Like, they weren't startups then; they were just companies.
They were just companies, but we got like, we've seen that bubble. We've been through it. It's just like, it's just all fucking made up, and that's why. Look at. So the house we live in Brighton is an end of terrace house. I may have had this rant at some point, and maybe on whilst recorded, I can't remember. But Nick bought it for some like £200,000. It's now worth $500,000. It's a fucking we've put a loft conversion on it, but it's a end of terrace cottage, terraced house that's damp and leaking, like this. It's just a shitty thing that was chucked up for railway workers. It's brilliant. I love it. I wouldn't move for all the world. But to actually fork out £500,000 for it would just be ridiculous. And how anybody now buying could contemplate. It's just not. Obviously, it is worth that because the houses like that in the area sell for that, but I don't think it's worth that. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, value is different.
It's like, fuck. Just because people will pay that or have been cajoled into paying for it by fucking estate agents who are, frankly, answerable for an awful lot of evil currently in the world. It's just absolutely ridiculous that could be worth that amount of money. It's like, and even now, thank God I'm not buying in England. It's like all these things where they do these open days and they cram a load of people into a house all next to each other and they all have to make secret offers on a house. When I bought my first house, I went and had a look at it, and then a couple of days later I took my mum and we had a look at it, and then I made an offer and then they rejected it, and then I made another offer, and it was all very slow, and I went, yeah, but it's a bit shitty, isn't it? And they went, yeah, I suppose so. And then it's like it was a slow, gentle, and we got the builder around to have a look, and now it's like cram 15 people into a house at the same time and go, right, all these people are your competition, what are you going to offer? It's like a fucking, you've got to admire their sales technique, but it's not really helping the world in any way. What we don't want is more things that divide. I think that's where it's all fucked up. So there's just things like, us versus them, those people that have got less money, those people that have got more, them, those others. And I think that's what upsets me, is that, like going back to dreams that I ever have, or things, big dreams of things I would do if I had much more money, are things like start a bloody, I know it sounds trivial, perhaps, I don't even care, like have a pomegranate cooperative in Bosnia and Herzegovina, start putting some business into people's lives that is shared, where they can earn a living and they get paid regularly, which seems to be a problem around the world. Get rid of things like 0-hour contracts, make sure that people, just like, make everything, all the basic stuff better for more people. Actually, to me, I can't really, and I'm starting with all the news at the moment, I'm starting to feel like I'm somehow stupid or naive for thinking this way. But so aside from the billionaire South African that I used to work for, I also have an ex-boyfriend who's South African. I went to visit his family. And, they're living in a house. They were living in a house where there was a gate between the downstairs and the upstairs, so that when they went to sleep at night, they could lock the gate in case their house got broken into and raided. It's like, that, I do not want to live like that. I want it so that nobody has to be going to thieving, breaking into my house because I'm better off, or so grossly better off that it seems to me obvious that the best way to get money is to smash them over the head. I mean, I don't want that.
Maybe it could be like a logarithmic thing.
It's like...
Try and get it back under control. So you've still got more, but it's like, we'll come up with a new numbering system so it still looks like you go way more, but actually it's cool. Like, it's a bit more fair.
What we're going to do
everyone wins.
Is we're going to have a system where when particular people get Googled, they get a really special icon by their name. So it's like some sort of blue tick on steroids. It's like, and in order to do that, you have to have made 1 billion points at some point, and then we give you that, and then you can give the 800 million of your 1 billion points back into society, but you keep your special shield of valor, or whatever the fuck you want to call it, that makes you feel amazing. And then I think what I need here is insert good role play, D&D reference. So you get a, some special sword or some bullshit, and then you get to feel brilliant, and the rest of us get to pay for, have universal healthcare.
Really boring. It's a really sort of shitty game at the moment, isn't it? With like just points,
is.
And there's so many more things you can do with gamification, and we just need to gamify society to incentivize people to.
Because the other thing is
their badges.
Yeah. But the thing is, we can't. What you were saying, like the very first time we did our podcast, and you were talking about the sort of like unimaginable and unattainable levels of wealth that this sort of like 0.1% of society has, or whatever, however little it is. And and it's just like we can't all get there. We can't get near there. So there's actually not a great deal of point in playing the game. But if we all went off grid, that's fucked up as well. That's some weird libertarian society where nobody gives a fuck and there are no rules. I don't want that either.
There is this idea that if someone was paying, like if only people were paying, if only there was a label, or if there was a benefactor, sort of some patron sort of investing in what I was doing, that everything would be better. The trade-off of that is money wants a say. So money wants influence. So if you're getting paid if someone's giving you some money, they sort of want a say in what you're doing as well. And so this is the trade-off. So the nice thing about being independent is that you don't have to answer to anyone else's ideas, which I think is largely good. It's also a bit of a kind of problem at a certain point when you're doing stuff that sort of seems like nobody wants, because it's so much your vision. But yeah, this idea of influence, money having influence, is it's a huge issue.
But that's going back to what I was saying about the Labour Party being nervous about millionaire socialists. It's like there is this sort of assumption that every idea is a negative idea. But there's this assumption that if money wants, and money has influence, and money can dictate, and money can influence your ideas, that all of that input is going to be negative, and it isn't. And not everyone is an arsehole.
This is something and this is something I'm finding. I want someone. I finally got someone asking me, going back to the artistic thing, oh, can you do some stuff like this? I'm like, yeah, help me find. And they're sort of a bit apologetic about it. And I'm no, I'm looking to provide some value for people. So I'm just looking for something to grab onto. So it might as well be the thing that the money is attached to. Because that obviously does mean something. So again, not everyone's an arsehole.
And in some ways, going about the positive points, the point scoring elements of money is a vote that says I like that thing that you're doing. Like for your music, you know, the more money, and some of that, a lot of it is obviously getting in front of enough people, that enough people hear it, that enough people want to pay and expect to pay. But it is a vote, and so it does have this positive count. We all need those votes, either be it for our work or whatever, just so that we can pay our bills. We can vote for bread and roofs. But there is this thing of that collaboration and critique and new ideas and different ideas are incredibly useful. And actually, when I am thinking that the world's a bit fucked, I do remind myself that not everybody is an arsehole, and therefore there is hope. And so I have to keep coming back to that every so often and going, no, it's okay, Vanka. So yes, I think you're having a wealthy patron who gets to talk to you, even if they don't get to dictate to you. There's a difference between dictating and contributing, isn't there?
Yeah,
and I
exactly.
think, even if you think about the painter we both know, he's always very happy for people to sit in front of a painting and go, really? What about this? As long as it's in progress rather than done. And I have known him to take a painting off the wall, that's supposedly done, and change it if there's the right kind of discussion. But I think anybody, if you're confident in yourself, then having your ideas questioned shouldn't be a negative thing. So may I go back to my previous conclusion, which is be yourself and don't be an arsehole?
And also, like, money isn't, there's arseholes everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, being rich doesn't make you an arsehole.
No.
Any more than being a different colour doesn't make you an arsehole. So I think that's quite a good conclusion for me to kind of remember for today. But what about, New Year's resolutions?
I'm not
2018, really. As people are hearing this, will be 2018.
I think being, as much as I've said to you, be yourself, don't be an arsehole, I think being more myself and being happy being myself, I think is a worthwhile resolution to have. I had been thinking about that over the last couple of months. I've been thinking a bit more about what it means to be me and who I am and those kind of things, what I like to do. So I think that's my background homework for the next year. Yeah.
Okay. Mine is get out of debt.
Fair enough.
I mean, as I've mentioned, I've had I kind of pushed it a little bit this year just because I'm coming up to a milestone age, so I just wanted to try everything I could, but I want to reach that milestone age not with any sort of baggage, let's just make this podcast work and spend my day a week well in the studio and just stay creative, but also try and embrace this job. I think I'm sort of going to take my foot off the pedal. I'm going to I feel like I've built up a huge head of steam and momentum, and I'm going to let myself kind of relax a little bit and go on more holidays and just not try and push myself every hour of the day so much. Sorry, people that like me doing that. The 4 people that do like me doing that.
I am committed to our podcast experiment. See how, so we can keep doing that. I like it.
if you like the podcast, you can
find me at Ivanka on Twitter and ivanka.blog.
And you can find me at Michael Forrest on Twitter and michaelforrestmusic.com.
You can find us both at grandpodcast.com and email us at hello@grandpodcast.com.
So, thanks for listening, everyone, and Happy New Year. Happy 2018.
Happy 2018.
Yeah.
Don't be an arsehole.
Don't be an arsehole, and we promise to try not to be arseholes either.
Yeah, don't.
Bye.
Bye.